I don't want the other players to know that I'm actually quite fearless. I think that walking around here, it's really easy to underestimate me. Like, I stand at 5 foot on a good day, and I'm by far the smallest person on the cast. In my free time here, I've been like sitting outside painting my nails, which I know seems crazy before going on Survivor, but whatever, that's what makes me feel better. So I think that people think that I am a non-issue and I'm not going to be a threat at all. But I think there's a lot about me that can set me up to win the game. But I think the number one trait is that I am not scared of anyone. I'm not afraid to try or do anything. And I'm going to bring that boldness with me. But I'm going to have to keep it under wraps for a little bit, because once it comes out, I know that I'll probably be one of the scariest people out there. So I'll have to figure that out once that happens.
Before I left, I was like, how old do I pass? Do I pass for like 35? I just didn't feel like being the older woman was going to get me that far in the game. Historically, it hasn't. So I would like to maybe keep my exact age under, maybe under a few years, because obviously I have 2 boys and I don't want to make up too many stories, because it's going to be enough to try to keep up with what I'm doing out there. But I will be mentioning my kids. That's just natural, and that I'm married, of course. And, having an 18-year-old and a 15-year-old is going to be, if I can get away with being, mid-30s, I would like to try to do that. But we'll see. So I'm not so sure I exactly want them to know my age.
I don't want to tell my childhood or my Sri Lankan life the way I grew up, I would say, because I want to keep that my story of my life to the final speech in the tribal, So sometimes when you are loyal to people, when you're loyal to your alliances, you may end up telling the story, but I will try my best not to tell. Maybe I will give a little bit of here and there, but I don't want to just give away my story, because that can put me on a target on my back.
I am a final year PhD student studying human evolutionary biology at Harvard. And I really don't want people to know that that's exactly what I do. I think when people hear Harvard, they tend to think that you're, elitist, things like that, especially on Survivor. They might be thinking that she's going to be a Cochrane or something like that. So I really, I'm not going to say that directly. Instead, I'm just going to slant it and say that I'm a research assistant in a lab very similar to the lab that I actually do my PhD research in. So that way I'll be able to still be myself and still talk about a lot of the same things that I would be talking about, but just not have it be like such a glaring, immediate potential red flag when people are meeting me.
I don't want the other players to know that I'm going to be playing a really strategic game. I want them to kind of underestimate me in the beginning, so that I can make it pretty far and then really start bringing out the strategic moves and things like that. But yeah, I don't want them to know that I'm going to be playing a super strategic game right off the bat.
I definitely don't want the other players to know how devious I am. I've decided to go by the nickname #DeviousDrat, because I'm just going to be kind of villainous. And it's fun for me because in my normal life, right, I'm not somebody who can do this. Like, this is freaking Survivor. When can you ever play a game and strategize against people and kind of plot on people? It's going to be really, really interesting to see their reactions when they see what I'm actually doing behind the scenes. Because on the surface, as you guys can probably tell, I'm a very social guy, very cunning, very charming. I can tell a joke or two, you know what I'm saying? I might appear even a little naive, because I'm a little young, and I just kind of go with the flow. But trust me, in the mind of a Virgo like me, my mind is always twisting and turning, and I'm always 3 or 4 steps ahead, if not 5. So they won't realize how strategic I am until it's too late.
How much I have thought about the strategy going into this game, how much I have prepared by listening to the exit interviews of players who have failed, how much Rob Sesternino and David Bloomberg have been my mentors through preparing for this game. I want to lower my threat level by not letting people know how intensely I have studied this game, because I have used the neurosurgical ability to study material, to implement that, and to carry it out. And I do not want people to know that I have invested considerable amount of time to understanding the strategy that goes into perfecting this game.
I have the luxury of knowing that a lot of people look at me and they think that I'm some, hollow-headed tool. So I don't want them to know that I go to one of the top universities in the country, that I, am one of the youngest Flutter developers in the entire world, and I'm self-taught. I started my own company. I'm a very proactive person. I love to, learn things. I love knowledge. I'm a huge nerd. And I don't want them to know the entirety of that. I want them to assume that I am that young, dumb jock.
I do not want the other players to know that I'm from Beverly Hills, and I don't want them to know that I went to Columbia, because there's obviously a bad connotation with Beverly Hills, that I do like super ritzy, posh, etc. But really, like, I'm super rugged. Like, I travel the world. Like, I've been to 49 countries, which is probably something I'll tone down also. But I backpack. I go myself. I bring nothing more than my passport, my retainer, and a credit card. Clothes on my back, and go super, super chill. So yeah, I feel like Beverly Hills is only half of me, so I don't need them to peg all of the stereotypes onto me. Also, I want them to think I really need the money. I'm 25. Like, whatever money I may or may not have is my dad, so it's not even mine. Also, Columbia, like, they're gonna just think I'm like a genius, but as much as I love to hype myself up, I'm not a genius. I got recruited for cross country and track, so I was fortunate enough to attend there, but I definitely don't have a Columbia brain, so I don't want them to think I have a Columbia brain.
My fear, or what I don't want them to know, is just being purposely alienated or someone being cruel to me. That's something that I haven't luckily experienced as an adult. And I'm not quite sure how I don't want to handle it, but if it was to happen, but I would be fearful of that. I wouldn't want them to know that would make me, that would hurt. But I can still put on a smile, but it would definitely hurt. But no, I'm an open book. I don't have any secrets.
Something about me I don't want the other players to know is that I can actually think pretty strategically. I love playing games, all kinds of games, board games, computer games, video games is my jam. And I feel like people see me and I'm very friendly, I'm very outgoing, and they don't see like a mastermind behind this facade. So I'm hoping to keep that kind of under wraps until I really need to pull it out. But even when I pull out like my strategic parts of myself, I'm going to try to make it so that it wasn't me who came up with the idea. So that's what I'd like to keep under wraps.
Coming out here has been really difficult emotionally for me. My husband, who's transgender, is pregnant with our second baby right now. And the baby is actually due 1 week after I get back to the United States. And so I don't think I'm going to tell the other players that. I don't want them to think, like, if I'm willing to miss the birth potentially of my son, I might be willing to do anything to win this game, which is completely accurate. So I don't think I'm going to let them know that.
Something about me that I don't want the other players to know is that I battle with chronic illness. So I have multiple sclerosis. And I know when people hear that, they often think about someone in a wheelchair or somebody that's always tired. But I've worked really hard in life to just develop a lifestyle that keeps me strong and like just has like a really strong mental fortitude. And so I don't want the other players to know that, because I think they might perceive that as weakness, but it's actually my strength.
Growing up on a ranch, I'm the fourth generation rancher. And we're not what I would call a typical ranch. We are pretty diversified, pretty spread out, pretty aggressive. And so I really don't want other players to kind of know how successful ranchers we are, I guess. It's just a lot of people don't really care, don't really get it, but sometimes, the success of a rancher, it takes all kind of things to be successful as a rancher. You got to be the welder, the plumber, the electrician. You got to be an economist. You got to be a vet. You got to just be all kind of things, because you're 30, 40, 50 miles from town. And when you have a problem, you got to solve it yourself. And so I really don't want other players to know that, man, this guy can kind kind of the jack of all trades, master of none, right? I can do a lot of stuff fairly well.
Something about me that I don't want the other players to know is that I went to MIT, and I think that people would be really threatened by it and have a bunch of perceptions of me based off of just the stereotype of typical MIT students. So I'm definitely going to keep that one a secret for as long as I can.
I'm smarter than I may look. I'm part of Oklahoma's student government. You know, I've done Toastmasters since I was in the 5th grade. And so I need them to think I'm just, you know, a dumb bro.
That I am a former NFL player. I think sometimes that is a disadvantage for players that come on Survivor because they assume that you already have some money, so you don't really need it.
That I'm really a really nice guy. I really genuinely care for other people. And in this aspect of it, I got to use a different side of a Gemini, and I got to cut their throat. I'm just going to be real nice about it.